The dense forests of Montana stretched endlessly before Ethan Carter as he adjusted his camera lens, scanning the landscape for the perfect shot. A seasoned wildlife photographer, Ethan had spent years capturing the beauty of untamed nature, but this trip felt different. The air was crisp with the scent of pine, and the golden hues of the setting sun painted the sky in a mesmerizing display. He had been tracking a family of foxes for days, hoping to document their behavior in the wild. But as he took a step forward, a faint whimper reached his ears. Ethan paused, his trained instincts telling him something was amiss. Carefully, he moved toward the sound, brushing aside thick undergrowth. There, nestled between fallen branches, lay a small, trembling creature. It was a baby fox, no older than a few weeks, its fiery red fur matted with dirt and dried blood. Its tiny frame shuddered as it tried to lift its head, but exhaustion overtook it. Kneeling beside the injured fox, Ethan's heart ached at the sight. He looked around for any sign of its mother or siblings, but the forest was eerily silent. Predators were common in this area, and the little fox must have been separated from its family. Leaving it here alone would be a death sentence. He hesitated for only a moment before making a decision. He couldn't just walk away. Gently, Ethan took off his jacket and wrapped the baby fox in its warmth. The creature whimpered, but didn't resist. It was too weak to fight. Holding it close, he hurried back to his cabin, knowing that this fragile life was now in his hands. Back at the cabin, Ethan carefully placed the fox on a soft towel near the fireplace. He examined its tiny body, noting a deep scratch along its hind leg. The wound didn't look fresh, but infection was a risk. He cleaned it with warm water, his touch gentle yet firm. The fox flinched but remained still, its golden eyes blinking up at him with both fear and trust. "You're a fighter, aren't you?" Ethan murmured, stroking its head. "I think I'll call you Willow." For the next few days, Ethan devoted himself to nursing Willow back to health. He fed her small portions of soft food and made sure she stayed warm. Each night, she curled up in the corner of his cabin, her tiny body rising and falling with steady breaths. At first, she was wary, but soon she began to trust him. When he moved around the room, her eyes followed him, and when he extended his hand, she nuzzled into it, seeking comfort. As the days turned into weeks, Willow grew stronger. She started exploring the cabin, her playful nature emerging as she batted at loose strings and chased after small shadows. She followed Ethan everywhere, her bushy tail wagging as she trotted behind him. The bond between them deepened, an unspoken understanding forming between man and animal. Ethan knew, however, that Willow wasn't meant to stay with him forever. She belonged in the wild, where she could run free and live as nature intended. It was a bittersweet realization, but he prepared himself for the day he would have to say goodbye. One crisp morning, Ethan took Willow outside. She hesitated at first, her small paws sinking into the soft earth. He crouched beside her, offering encouragement. "Go on, Willow, this is your home." Willow looked up at him, her golden eyes filled with something Ethan couldn't quite name. Then she took a tentative step forward, and then another. Soon, she was trotting through the grass, her body moving with a grace that had been absent when he first found her. Ethan spent the following weeks taking Willow outside more frequently, allowing her to adjust to the wild again. She learned to hunt small prey and hide among the foliage. Each time she ventured further from the cabin, Ethan felt a pang of both pride and sadness. Then, one day, it happened. Willow didn't return to the cabin at night. Ethan stood on the porch, staring into the darkness, listening for the familiar rustle of her movements. But there was nothing. She was gone. A deep ache settled in his chest, but he knew this was the way it had to be. Willow had found her place in the world again. She was free. Months passed, and Ethan continued his work, traveling to different parts of the country for his photography. But every time he returned to Montana, he couldn't help but think of Willow. Then, one evening, as he sat by the fireplace, lost in thought, a faint rustling outside caught his attention. He stood up, heart pounding. Stepping out onto the porch, he scanned the tree line. And then he saw her. Willow stood a few feet away, her sleek coat shimmering under the moonlight. But she wasn't alone. Beside her, peeking out from behind her tail, was a tiny fox pup, her own baby. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Willow had found her way back, if only to show him that she was safe, that she had created a family of her own. She had never forgotten him. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Willow had found her way back, if only to show him that she was safe, that she had created a family of her own. She had never forgotten him. He didn't move, didn't speak, afraid to break the fragile moment. Willow gazed at him, her golden eyes filled with recognition. Then, with one last lingering look, she turned and disappeared into the forest, her pup following closely behind. Ethan stood there long after they were gone, a soft smile playing on his lips. The wilderness had given him a gift he hadn't expected, a bond that transcended words, a friendship that would never fade. Willow was where she belonged. And somehow, knowing that made his world feel whole again.